Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to this, what shall I call it? I don't want to call it a how to do something, but it's something I'd like to show you how I've done it for a project that we've got coming next. So the project that we've got coming next is a project using Spellbinders stamps and dies called the Dot Mandala. And it's a project that's in black and white, and I've actually stamped the Dot Mandala flowers in white ink and I've heat embossed them with white embossing powder. Now the reason I wanted to share this is because if you're like me and you're an avid crafter, you're always looking for either the perfect white ink pad or the perfect white ink and heat embossed image, because when you stamp on black sometimes it can be very wishy-washy. Now, the images that I'm using for the project are the black cardstock and the white stamped image. And I think they pick the detail up fantastically and they look great. So I wanted to show you the process, because I know when we do the projects, when I do the projects, I kind of whip through it and say, I've already stamped this, I've already die cut that. And then people sort of say, well, how have you done that? So that's sort of my theory behind it. So enough of me chattering, let's craft. So these are the Dot Mandala stamps that you get with the die cuts, the dies from Spellbinders. You'll have to excuse my voice because I'm just recovering from flu, as you probably know, and I'm still a little bit croaky. So all I've done is I've taken my stamp and I've put it on my acrylic block. So I'm going to take my stamp pad and some black cardstock, and I hope you can see the cardstock on the black stamp pad, and I'm going to give gentle light tapping onto the stamp with my ink pad. Now I'm going to make sure that it's well covered, and my stamp's been quite dry in the packet, so my first stamp might not be perfect. So I'm not making excuses, I'm not blaming my tools, but sometimes, it's not too bad, sometimes that first stamp that you make isn't always the best one. So we'll do it again, and then we can stamp again. There we go, that's not bad. Now that's a good white image, but it could be made better. So what we're going to do now is we've used our Eyes Ink white ink pad. This is a pigment based ink pad made by Aladdin, and you might have seen the Eyes Ink ones already. So we're going to take our image and we're going to add our heat embossing powder. Now bear in mind, if you're using a heat gun, you want to work on a heat-proof surface or a surface that's protected. I've got a few sheets of scrap A4 underneath this because my mat isn't a heat-proof mat. So the embossing powder we're going to use is from Eyes Ink, from Aladdin again, and it's called Jasmine. It's very fine, and I just think it works so well. And if, like me, you've hunted high and low for a white embossing powder, believe me, this is one to try. So I've simply added the powder on top of the stamped image. It will stay wet for, I would say, I've not really left it wet actually, but I would say maybe half an hour to an hour. But I always seal mine. I either use clear embossing powder and heat it, or the colour of the embossing powder of the ink. So I've tapped the powder over the image. Now I'm going to tap it away, and the actual image will only retain the amount of powder that it needs. So we can tap that away, and you'll notice I'm doing that on scrap paper. Now, if I'd been more organised, I could have used an anti-static mat previously to wipe the cardstock before I stamped, and that would enable me to keep the cardstock nice and clean. There would be no fingerprints, it would be just retain the complete image. If, however, you've got any little bits around the side of the stamp that's embossing powder, you can simply use a brush, a dry brush, to knock them away. Tap as well, and then it will just literally keep on the image what it needs. Now I think that for me is good to go, and we can heat that. So I'm just going to save the embossing powder we haven't used by simply adding it back into the pot, because we don't waste any, and then the pot will last for so long. And I can put that to one side, and then I can heat the flowers. Now this is where I'm going to have to talk over the heat gun. I've got quite an old heat gun, and I want to zoom in a little bit, so I hope I get the camera the right way. Yeah, go that way, because I'd like you to see the effect as it changes. So I'm going to turn my heat gun on, and hopefully it's not too noisy. And then just remember that we're not doing this, we're going to go with the heat as it changes on the card, and it's just starting to change already, and then we just move our heat gun as it changes higher, well, towards the next image, I'm saying higher, and just wait for that to change, and you can see it change in front of your eyes. It goes a little bit shiny, and just get that extra bit on that side. There we go, and that's all heat embossed now, and nice and shiny. I don't know if you can see the shine on it. Now obviously I didn't use my mat, so I've got a few spots on the back of the card. However, when you die cut them away from your cardstock, any excess that you've got on it, you're not going to see, because you're die cutting them out. Now a lot of people say about die cutting them first and then stamping because the embossing cracks. Now this doesn't. I do emboss mine first, heat emboss them, and then take them through the machine with the die cut, and not one of them cracked. So I'm just hoping that this gives you a little bit of help and an idea of using a white ink pad and white embossing powder for how I've created the flowers for the project that's coming up next. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free. I can't reply on YouTube, and that goes to past projects as well. So please feel free to contact me on Facebook or on my blog. All the details of all the projects are on the blog, and there's something there for everybody. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.